Welcome to Human, Not Superhero, a show for educators. This week, we are going to be talking about why you are still making excuses and not taking care of yourself. And you may be thinking, Shannon, I want to take care of myself, but that's not the nature of the job. However, a lot of those excuses for not taking care of ourselves come out subconsciously because we want to be good educators. And we can change that response and have a balanced life as an educator, knowing we love our students and that being our human selves is completely remarkable and acceptable. So, what do I mean? Excuses. It's a conditioned response. As educators, we have been conditioned to make excuses as to why we can't do something. And that condition rests solely on the fact that you have been told if you do not go above and beyond, if you do not exhaust yourself, if you do not finish things that are humanly impossible, you must not, do not, or don't care about your students. You're only in it for a paycheck. Guys, if I hear that one more time, you're just doing it for the check. You don't care for the kids. The check isn't worth it. The check? Okay. Sorry. That one gets me every time. It really, really does. Like, it gets me every time. But that's the condition. So, how do conditions form? That we're actually making excuses for the broken system. Because I hear you. Like, I see you just, the faces, like, I can see the faces you're probably making right now, and they're not like the happiest faces because you're probably like, Shannon, no. Yeah, we're making excuses and we don't even realize it, guys. So, how does the condition happen? Okay, this is how the condition happens. I strive to be the best educator for my students. I am passionate about education. It is what I love and I cherish it. I want to do a good job every day. Over here, that's your heart, your mind, right? Then you see viral videos of the teachers who work all the time. They're being applauded, they're being celebrated. That's the kind of teacher every student needs. You see other things that show if a teacher clocks in and clocks out, they must not care. Those teachers aren't in it for the right reasons. If you were in it for the right reasons, you wouldn't just clock in and out. And so we get these messages from a place over here of what a good teacher should be, which is superhuman, which is impossible, which can't humanly happen. But we get all of these messages, and then those messages connect to our desire of wanting to be an effective, good, inspirational educator. And so you take those two things, bam, your subconscious holds on to that. Like, you want to be a great educator. This is what I'm seeing all around makes a good educator. This is what people say makes a good educator. So you must do those things to do what your heart desires. And now you're subconsciously making excuses on why you're not taking care of yourself. When teachers started to push back and say that this is unreasonable what you're asking, this is humanly impossible, I'm going to take care of myself. The powers that be, whoever they are where you're at, took that statement and they said, yes, self-care is so important, to seem as though they were in agreement with you. Then they took the teachers that were pushing against the status quo, who said, I'm drawing a line in the sand. They acted like they were in agreement with you. They acted like they were on the same page with you. They kept throwing unreasonable demands on your plate and said, if you would just self-care, you'd be fine. Aren't you self-caring enough? They took what was a step in the right directions for educators, twisted it, threw it back in your face, and made you feel like it was your fault for not taking care of yourself. No, it's not. It's the subconscious mind and the conscious mind battling each other to where we're making excuses as to why we don't take care of ourselves. And now a lot of teachers are like, oh, God, I don't want to do self-care. It has been twisted so much as a negative that now we don't want to hear the word self-care. It makes us mad. Look at the condition that they have brought us to. They conditioned us to not like self-care and to think of it as a negative instead of a positive. Because no, you cannot self-care your way out of unrealistic work expectations. The condition was the expectations stand. If you will just self-care, everything will be fine. And this got played on repeat. And then educators were like, what? That is the biggest bunch of crap I ever heard. You can't self-care your way out of impossible work expectations. Now we hate self-care. But it's necessary. It's necessary in a way, not what they say, but in the way that educators wanted it to be in the first place. And we need to get back to where that started from. And that is that taking care of oneself isn't selfish. So we need to have some changing of the condition. It's got to change. Once again, you're probably like, Shannon, why do I have to change? Why don't they have to change? Do you see any kind of expedited change happening in the educational system? Or do you see a whole lot of talk and not a lot of action? I see a whole lot of talk and not a lot of action. It's really not hard to figure out why teachers are leaving the profession in droves, or burnt out, or thinking of leaving. I gotta be honest with you guys, and you know my story. I thought about leaving. I looked at other jobs. I emailed my principal and said, look, this is not what I signed up for. I'm looking for other jobs. Sorry, I'll let you know if I find one. It's like I went that far. And I did look. And when I looked, my heart sank. I was so sad because all I ever wanted to do for a career was to teach. But I was sick of suffering. I was sick of being burnt out. And I was sick of giving up my whole life to a job that would replace me tomorrow. Let's just be real. Because it's a job. And no, it's not a job that everybody can do. It's a special job and you're a special person. And I love my job. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do real self-care. And they're not going to like it. I'm going to change the condition. They're not trying to change the condition. I'm not ready to leave. I'm not going to suffer. I'm not going to quit. What's the other option? Teachers, we're really good at making a way out of no way for everybody else. It's time to make it for ourselves. Make a way out of no way for ourselves. And that's what I did. I picked the third option, which was a balanced teacher life. And that meant saying no. That meant setting boundaries and changing the condition. And it also meant changing my mindset. Like I said, we're really good about making it happen for everybody else. But then subconsciously we have all these excuses why we can't do it for ourselves. That it has to be this or that. It has to be suffer or leave. One or the other. Doesn't have to be one or the other. Now, I do understand there are some situations where quitting is the option, and I fully support teachers who do it because we're all in different situations. So I don't want to discount that. That does not mean that you are a failure or you failed at what you were doing. That means that you said, I'm going to love myself more than this. And that's fine. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you will lose yourself. Sit on that for a second. If you don't take care of yourself, you're going to lose yourself. I lost myself in education for a long time. And I had a big wake up call, a big one, a life changing one. I don't want you to get to a point where you have a life changing, altering thing happen to you to where you start to love yourself, to truly love yourself. And that happened to me. And I had to get real with life. It's a hard thing to think about. But I was at a place where I had to make a decision. And I'm not talking about anything educational related, guys. Something really big happened in my life that brought everything into perspective. And it brought into perspective how much I had lost myself in a job. I love my job, but it is a job. Is it an integral part of who I am? Absolutely. But it is not all I am. And I couldn't sacrifice everything else for teaching anymore. I had to make that choice. I had to go on the journey. You can start that journey by going to makewaveseducation.com/balance and getting your recipe for a balanced teacher life, from burnout to brighter days ahead. And loving myself and changing the condition was a huge part of my journey to a balanced teacher life. Because to truly love others, you must first love yourself. We're in a profession of being caregivers. We care for others. We take care of them. If we lose ourselves, if we sacrifice ourselves, we're no good to anybody. The condition tells you to go sacrifice yourself in the volcano, throw yourself in. Hopefully the education gods will smile down and it'll be all sunshine and rainbows and magical things will happen. The problem is if you throw yourself in the volcano, you're gone. There ain't nothing left of you. You are not a sacrificial lamb. You ain't got to go throw yourself into the volcano to prove that you love your students. And that was really hard for me at first because of the condition. But I changed my thinking about the condition. I wasn't going to let the broken system determine how much I loved my students and cared about them. Because I know I can love my students, pour myself into them, do all of those things, then clock out. It was a journey. It didn't happen overnight. But I made it a priority in my life because I had gotten to a place where I had lost myself. And maybe some of you all have lost yourself, or maybe some of you all haven't, but you feel yourself maybe going that way, or that the only way to be an educator is to be that way. And that is not true. What is true is that you care about your students and love them. You are amazing at what you do. You are good at what you do, but you don't have to be superhuman to do it. You just don't. You can love yourself and you can love your students too. Taking care of yourself physically and mentally is essential, especially if you're a teacher. You pour into others all the time. Another thing they love to tell teachers is that you can't pour from an empty cup. You're absolutely right. We cannot pour from an empty cup, so we are going to love ourselves. We're going to set boundaries. We're going to let guilt go. We're going to have a life that's balanced, and all the extra stuff that you ask us to do that doesn't really impact our students is not going to come and take that away. Because we are going to love ourselves so that we can give to our students, but also so that we can give to everybody else in our lives. We're not just teachers. We're multifaceted. We're all kinds of things. I'm all kinds of things. There's tons of things I love. That's not just teaching. It doesn't mean I love teaching. Doesn't mean teaching is not a priority. I love it. If I didn't, I would have went and got one of those other jobs. I wouldn't have searched for the third option. But I'm not going to sit and just be part of the status quo. You don't have to be. It is a journey. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. I really want to say what I really want to say. I'm going to say it. I had to get to a point where I was like, hey, what's the worst you're going to do? Fire me? If I love myself and have a balanced life and that's not okay, then fire me. Let me go. That was something I resolved in myself because I want a balanced life. I want to teach. And if that's not something that's acceptable, if it's not acceptable to teach and have a life, and then fire me, I guess. That was my thought process. That was a little radical. Sounds a bit radical, but that's where my mind was because of the things that I was going through. But it's still possible. And now, of course, I'm at a better balanced place and I found ways to do what I need to do. And so far, so good. Guess what? So far, so good. I have a balanced life and nobody is freaking out. You can have it too. Just go to makewaveseducation.com/balance to get your recipe to a balanced teacher life from burnout to brighter days ahead. Burnout to brighter days ahead is a process, friends. Definitely a process. It doesn't happen overnight, but start by loving yourself. Put yourself first. I want you to think of one way you're going to put yourself first this week. And I'm not talking about bubble bath, guys. Come on, please don't. Let's not do that. Let's do something just like big, huge, something that's very uncomfortable, something that is positive but scary. To love yourself and put yourself first. Because guess what? Next week, we're going to talk about how breakthroughs often feel like breakdowns. How putting yourself first, setting boundaries, moving towards a balanced teacher life can often feel like a breakdown at first instead of a breakthrough. And we're going to dive all into that. But this week, I want you to be bold and get out of your comfort zone and do something just radical. Okay, you don't have to be radical like me and be like, well, too bad, fire me. And guys, I wasn't doing anything that was, crazy. I was just literally leaving when it was time to leave. Like, to me, that was radical. But do something radical this week. Because remember, it's never too late to start a new story. What are you writing in your story? I will see you all next week.